Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast. And I'm excited to bring you another guest on the show where we talk about gossip. And now, in today's episode, I'll be talking with Marie, or Dr. Marie, who is a full-time art history professor. And she has experienced, you'll hear her own version of the story as well, but she has experienced bullying and how she has used this bullying to her advantage and how she has used that as a current leader, or then how she deals with other people in the workplace because of her bad experiences. So she's taken some of her bad experiences and turned them into positive experiences. And so I'm looking forward to you listening to the episode. And if you would like to come and join the Facebook community, come and join us at Women of Faith in Leadership community, or you can go to womenoffaithinleadership.com and come and get some free resources and join the community. You can also ask a listener questions. Those are one of my favorites to do. One of my favorite shows to do, or episodes to do, is to answer a listener question. So just go to womenoffaithinleadership.com and you'll find a wide range of resources. And you can also even leave a speak pipe, which is a verbal review or a question that you can ask, and I will play it on the show. All right, let's get into today's episode. I'll see you on the other side.
Leading as a woman is tough, but leading as a woman of faith is next level. However, it doesn't have to be that way. God has called you into this leadership role because He says you are worthy. You are His child, and if He qualifies you, who in this world can unqualify you? You might suffer from imposter syndrome and believe you're not good enough, but God says you are good enough. Hi, I'm Rika, Whelan, Christian leader and workplace culture coach, and together we're going to navigate leadership with faith as our foundation. Let's get started. Grab your coffee or water, keep that notebook and pen handy, and let's jumpstart your leadership.
Welcome, Marie, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. Now, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your experience with workplace gossip?
Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I'm really excited to be here. So I am a professor of art history. I work at a university here in the United States, and I am also I think I'm going with a mentor, a self-care mentor. That's my latest, like, how I'm branding myself. And I came to this kind of side business through a process of coming to terms with and moving past um, workplace bullying and gossip, and it became a passion for me that my work had lost, in part because of of a variety of experiences, and the gossip and the bullying was definitely part of it. So, um, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when we start digging deeper as to, reasons why people make decisions. And it is interesting that you say, gossip and bullying is one of the reasons that you got into your business. And so,
Mhm.
in that sense, it kind of, you can see it as a good thing that happened.
It,
And
it
then,
was a blessing in a way. Yeah.
exactly. But I definitely would think that you didn't think it was a blessing when you were in that moment.
I didn't, and certainly not with the bullying. I am a tenured professor, meaning that I have basically a contract for as long as I am willing to work for the university. They've said yes, we've verified that she meets all the qualifications. We're going to continue to employ her. But the process of getting tenure was brutal, and in part, it's somewhat unique to my university in that every single year we are our files, so like our accomplishments for the year, evidence of teaching, evidence of the committees that we've served on, gets reviewed by our fellow faculty members who have already received tenure. And it's again, it's a blessing and also an opportunity for some really um unfortunate and unkind ways of mentoring. Yeah, junior faculty, not yesterday younger, but junior faculty. Because what ends up happening is that um the faculty who are already tenured, they write ballots, they write feedback for each year, so 6 years of feedback. And some of the feedback that I got was just, it was belittling. It was genuinely belittling. And I knew who it was. It was right directly to my face because I could see their names on it. And So that was hard to deal with in the going through those years, and just knowing in my heart of hearts what an extraordinary job I was doing, and not being recognized, not being seen for what things what the astounding innovative techniques that I was doing, and being invited to be like a keynote speaker at national conferences and stuff, but it wasn't considered to be serious scholarship, serious pedagogies, and so therefore it was I was, or they just didn't simply read my file. That was the other thing. Um, for some it was clear, like
Yeah.
they didn't even bother to read what I'd
Yeah.
written.
Yeah, and I think the interesting point that you've made there for me is that it's like the person that was they had a sense of control, and they felt like, your future is in their hands.
Mhm.
And so that can definitely be an issue, well, definitely a cultural issue, at workplaces where people in leadership or people who have got some kind of authority, and you see it so often. I've even experienced it, just that little smidgen of a leadership position or smidgen of an authority, they feel like they need to put other people down. And potentially the reason why they do that is because they've had that done to them. So
Mhm.
that's their like role model, or idea of what leadership is. So my
Mhm.
question to you then is, now that you've got tenure, how are you dealing with it differently with people whose files you are getting?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I almost exclusively, I mean, I'm not going to get into, there's been one exception to this, and I won't explain why. But I am consistently and fully supportive of my colleagues. I I look through their files. I do read their files. And In my situation, I actually, so it's kind of a weird, I'm in a weird pickle because I'm at I actually there I answer to two authorities in a way. There's a group of faculty that come from just all sorts of different disciplines across the university. The From mathematics to social sciences to um, biology to like just all sorts of, to business, and I'm an art historian, and so I like they that was that it was through that group that I experienced the greatest amount of bullying, and to some extent I learned gossip, and then I'm also accountable to a group that is just art historians and artists and art educators. I only get to write ballots for the latter group. I'm not, I've never been elected to a position, although I have ran to be able to write ballots for the others. And there was a year or two in there that I could have chosen. I could have opted to write ballots for that other group. but I was kind of in a disillusioned place and also or was having some health crises. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna even go there. And now they're not hiring any tenure track positions. So there's no ballots to be written for that group now anymore. Um, so, but yeah, for my colleagues, the thing that I choose to do is I feel like for my colleagues who are art historians, I write very thorough and supportive ballots that go into great detail as to why what they've done is of significant accomplishment in our field. And then for the ones that aren't, I choose to write ballots that are just supportive. But honestly, I don't have um, I don't feel like I have the expertise to write a really in-depth ballot for a lot of those other cases. So it is what it is. But I try to be supportive of my colleagues in all situations. And one of the things that that really really gets my yeah, um, is we are required by our contracts to administer student surveys of instruction, so student evaluations every semester, which I don't think is like completely unreasonable, but those are given very heavy weight by certain of my colleagues. The what the students' opinions are of of the class in the final week or two of the semester, and there have been massive amounts of like very well documented research that say these are absolute bullocks. If there's nothing that is should be taken of like credence from these evaluations. So when I got tenure, I said, I am never looking at those again. I'm not looking at mine again, and I will never look at another one of my colleagues' sets of them. I flat out refuse. I will not look at them because it's it's unethical.
Mm.
It's unethical to be using these in any capacity for any personnel actions.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I agree. So I'm studying as well at the moment at the Australia Institute for Business, and in the final week, we also
Mhm,
have to do student evaluations. And if you
mhm.
don't fill them out, they kind of hunt you down for it.
Oh my.
Not in a bad way, but they really really encourage you to fill it out. And something
Interesting.
that I've noticed is that they put quite a lot of weight on it. So they even have got like awards for the lecturer or so forth that had the best score over a period of
Wow.
time or so forth. Yeah, so that's quite interesting.
Cool.
I've never thought about it on in your perspective, that what you just mentioned. I never thought about that actually. So I think that's a good point, and that can actually also contribute to gossip, because if somebody did get a bad score, then and somebody reads that score, depending on who has got access to that,
Mhm,
that can definitely contribute to gossip going on amongst faculty staff and amongst academic staff. And you don't want or need that. I think you work hard enough in your semester or in your term to get everything done and to see those students through, because a lot of that does rely on you to sometimes pull them through. And then to
mhm.
have a student give you a bad rating, I think is yeah, that's underrated.
Well, and it's been shown that consistently across the board, students evaluate women and persons of color lower. Um, it's statistically significant lower averages. Like to the point that they've done like blind studies where they've had the same instructor teach online courses and introduce themselves in one course as a woman and in one course as a man. Same exact instructor, same material, same everything. And that same instructor gets lower evaluation scores as the woman than as the man.
Wow, yeah, it's saying that we the gender gap, we've not closed it just yet. That is for sure. There's still a lot of work to be done there. Now, can I
And that's sorry,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
for it.
Oh, I mean, and that's that's something that the university is working very hard to adjust for, but it's not something we can account for in our students,
I
right?
mean, what can you do about that? That's their biased or opinions. Now, my next question that I wanted to ask, was in terms of processes or steps that you could have taken as someone who felt bullied. Was there a process in place for something like that? Because I know that gossip, and so many people I speak to say that, yes, gossip falls under that workplace bullying factor. But because sometimes workplaces or leadership teams, or they just see it as harmless banter, they don't see it as serious as workplace bullying, and so therefore it doesn't fall, in their opinion, it doesn't fall under workplace bullying. So yeah, what's your experience with that in that space? And then in terms of processes, was there anything to protect you in that space that you feel you were not confident in following that, or what? Yeah, over to you.
No, there was no protection whatsoever. And it was just kind of up to me to put up with it and survive through the hazing process. What has been interesting is since I received tenure. So I have a very serious spinal cord condition, and I had spinal cord surgery in the fall of 2019, which was right as I was submitting my right as I was submitting my tenure file. I received I received I literally just submitted my tenure file, and I received my tenure notification that I got tenure a week after lockdown, in spring of 2020. Um, yeah, and so that has added a whole new dimension to my experience of gossip, and it has really, that's where the growth has really come in. Is I know that there has been a fair amount of gossip, especially after the university insisted everybody must come back to campus. It's time to return to campus. Everybody's coming back, and I'm like, no, I'm not, because my condition is such that remote work. I made it work during COVID, and I my condition. I need to be able to be home whenever I need to be able to be home. And I need to be able to, and I want to still continue to teach, and I don't want to have to taking leave. And I've had to take leave several times since the surgery, because things have come up and I just can't. Like I fell off a stool and hit my head on a tile floor. Uh, I was like, okay, well, I'm done for the semester, and that's really challenging for the university because they have to find a substitute to finish off my courses. And so anyway, I work completely 100% remotely, and that is very challenging, apparently, as I've kind of overheard through gossip, for some of my colleagues. And I have to give great credit to the director of my the art program, who has kept that entirely from me. I had no idea that. I mean, I figured the gospel was happening, but it wasn't. It was only through hearing from some of my colleagues that we're not being allowed to attend meetings remotely like I was. Um, they weren't allowed to be like I just that gives me pause. Like they weren't allowed to attend meetings remotely. Like how is that? But anyway, because and that they had to deal with a lot of complaints about me attending meetings remotely when they had to come in person, and really having to be like, well, I can't really discuss why she, gets to attend meetings remotely because it's confidential medical information, and I'm protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I've gone through a lot of, I mean, I've worked through a lot of hoops to get the accommodations that I need. It's been quite the arduous process to get the university to agree to what I need. But apparently there have been a lot of people that don't appreciate that I have these quote unquote special privileges, because I have a disability.
Mm. But it's a really good point to make, because a lot of people, there's this word fairness, there needs to be fairness, but the word fairness really should just be thrown out, because it's more about equity and than what it is about fairness. Because you're not going, it makes me think about that cartoon where you're asking a giraffe, an elephant, and a baboon to climb a tree, and you're saying, we're going to now score you all on who can climb the tree. I mean, just there's obviously only one person's going to be able to do that. The baboon's not person, but only one of them is going to be able to do it.
An
So
animal, yeah.
yeah, I mean, seriously. So I think, yeah, people are definitely still stuck in that era where they were, because before the word equity came in, everything just had to be fair. There had to be fairness. And now we are living in such a different world now, where there's way more awareness regarding people's disabilities. I've got a daughter with a disability, so I completely understand that it's not about fairness. We still get stuck with our two other children, where they don't understand why she has some privileges that they don't. And so I completely understand where you and even your colleagues are coming from, but that's a mindset issue. And I think that, for any workplace or any leader listening to this podcast right now, is that we need to create more awareness surrounding the fact that it's not about fairness. The word fairness is out there. It should be out. It's more about, okay, how can we accommodate every individual person who works here? So what advice would you give to the listeners right now, who is in a leadership position? They're struggling with gossip amongst their employees, specifically like there's somebody who they feel is getting unfair treatment or extra privileges or whatever. What advice would you give to that leader?
I mean, from my perspective, it's a really tricky thing the institution, at least from a university perspective, when it's a large institution, the institution needs to have policies that support and promote equity, because the institution is legally obligated to provide me with these accommodations, but they're not legally obligated to provide equity and equitable accommodations for parents, for example. Um, and that's problematic, because there are a number of my colleagues who are parents who things come up and they would very much be able to participate and want to participate in things remotely, but because of policies, um, and directives that have come down from high up in the administration, they're not able, the leaders themselves aren't able to allow that flexibility and allow that distribution of equitable accommodations for people in different situations. I guess, in my classrooms, it's really there's so much to learn from equitable teaching practices to adapt to equitable leadership practices. In my classrooms, my default when I am working with students is I assume that they are doing their best. Whatever their best possible is. They are doing whatever is their best possible good faith effort. And unless I am presented with incontrovertible evidence that they are doing things out in bad faith, and I have had one student in my 11-year career that I was like, no, you're doing this out of bad faith. And there's policies to deal with that. But assuming that your employees, that you don't need to police them, that they're there because they want to be there, especially in higher ed, because so many of us come into this profession. We're not here to make the big bucks. Like, we're here because we love we love working with students. We love doing the research that we're doing. We value like the institution of education. And so trusting us, just trusting your employees to do their best good faith, um, is it and not put in place policies that are policing their activities, because then they aren't going to put in their best good faith because they're going to feel like they're being monitored, and they're going to try to get around the policies, or skirt the policies, or do whatever they can to make the policies, manipulate the policies, when you just assume that they are doing what is in the best interests of the institution and of the students and of their academic discipline. um it makes all the difference in the world. um yeah, so that's what I would advise, if somebody is listening to this from a leadership position, is trust your people. They're not with you because they want to get away with things. They're with you because they want to be there. They support the mission of your organization, and they want to do the best that they can. Um, so don't get in their way.
Yeah, it's micromanaging. So we shouldn't be micromanaging our team, because micromanagement is one of the biggest red flags for a toxic workplace culture. Is if you've got a manager who just wants to micromanage your every move. But it is an
Hmm.
interesting point that you make about trust, because some leaders, including me, have been burnt by that one particular person who's not there for the best of the organization, and who's not there for the
Hmm.
best of, they're just there to cruise through, quiet quitting, which is that newish. It's not so new anymore. They just come to work to do the minimum, and then they go home, and then they don't even think about you or the organization or the customers or anything. Which is,
Hmm.
boundaries. I get that there should be boundaries, but also you should have a passion for your job if you want to do it, and not just come in and earn the money. So I guess, from that stance, I know that some organizations have put policies in place to patrol people because of that one person. So all the 99 other people has to follow this policy simply because one person didn't do it. And it can be totally, totally frustrating. I think one thing that's so crucial for anybody that's in the workplace at the moment where there's a toxic culture is your friends outside of work and your connections out of work. And it might be a tough situation that you're in there, but at least, if you've got friends and family who loves and supports you out of work, uh, focus on that versus focusing on the negatives of work, because gossip can be so detrimental to an individual's mental health, and that makes them feel, a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-worth, and even gone so far as, people wanting to commit suicide because they feel that they're worthless in that
Hmm.
space. And so focus on, your community, your people, those people who love and value you for who you are and actually accept you for who you are, and
Hmm.
not the things and the people that are at work. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So, is there
Well,
any
and
final words or any final advice that you want to share with the listeners?
well, when you were saying that, it occurred to me that one of the reasons that I do truly still love my work is because a big part of the people who do value what I do and um, find real meaning are my students. And I continue to have amazing connections and relationships with my students and support them and get them through some really hard things and hard times. And they come back to me after graduating and say, "What should I do with my life?" And having just those meaningful connections with students, it buoys me. It keeps me going. And it's like, okay, well, the university may be filled with all sorts of panicking naysayers in terms of who are my fellow employees, but my students are still there and they still really value me and value what I bring to their education. And so that's enough.
Yeah, love that. Love that. It's your why. It's the why
Hmm.
of why you are there. So where can
It is.
people connect with you if they want to connect with you after listening to the show?
So my website the name of my side business is Soul Star Attunement, and my website is soulstarattunement.com. And you can run your free human design chart on that and connect with me, and we can talk all sorts of things. So that's where to find me.
Great. And I'll make sure that I pop the link in the show notes as well for the listeners to click on. So I'll get that from you as well. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming on today. I really enjoyed our time together.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your having me.
Thanks so much for listening. If this podcast blessed you in some way, the number one way you can thank me is by leaving a review. Your feedback means the world to me and lights me up every single time when I read it. And it makes me want to keep going. So please leave a review, and your review will also help other Christian women in leadership find the answers they are looking for. So whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the review section and leave that review. Then head over to womenoffaithinleadership.com and join our free Facebook community, and I look forward to engaging with you there.